Good evening, India, and welcome to Gunner Shot. Gunner Shot में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we're going to look at how China is misfiring as the Iran war drags on. Let's not have any doubt that China is having a whole lot of problems internally. And unless we understand the problems they have, we will not be able to understand why they are not active in the Iran war. Why is it that China has taken a backseat? Why is it? I've been covering this almost on a weekly basis, and the same I'll do today. And you'll see that today my presentation or whatever I'm going to talk to you is in three or four different bits. Probably they're not connected with each other. But then, if you, at the end, you you yourself connect everything together, and you'll get a picture. And that's the reality of China today. You can't put your finger on it, but it's like a piano. It doesn't matter where you press, some sound will come out. And that sound is discordant. Right? So, put it on. 1 minute. Yeah. Sorry. Uh, yeah. So, the whole sound is discordant and things are not really going well. So, I'll start. And it is my firm belief that whenever we start speaking of China, we should start with politics. Politics is the first thing which we have to touch on. But having said that, what are the issues involved? We're going to talk of politics itself, how the Iran war is affecting China. That's a very important question. Then we're going to see a strange military decline which is happening in China. We've heard about generals getting sacked. What about others? The EV bubble. And there are a whole lot of disjointed disturbances which are happening. All of them uh, are not, there's no thread through this except probably politics. And we'll start with politics because understanding this political phenomenon, the latest update in politics, is the key to understanding what's happening in China always. As I say, look at the politics of China and everything else falls in place. So I start at the politics. Okay, now the thing is this. We know that politically China has been going through a lot of issues throughout last year. Xi has been unwell. He is not able to consolidate the hold over his party. There's a Hu Jintao faction with Wen Jiabao, and there is Zhang Yubjia faction. Zhang Yubjia has been canned, all that. But what's so great about all this? Which today is this still playing out? Yes, it is somewhere at some level. You know, for the past about in the past 1 week, this lady Lee's Real Talk, she's put out 3 videos on this photograph, which is the insect here. This one. This is Wenjia Bao. Okay. Now Wenjia Bao was the prime minister under Hu Jintao. He and Hu Jintao are supposed to be opposite or against Xi Jinping. That's the lineup between the two. Now, what happens is, say, sometime last week, I don't know when, this fellow comes out. He's a retired elder. He retired 24 years back. He's about 88 years old, or 86 or 87 years old. So he comes on the streets. He goes to a place for a function. Now, as a visit, proper visit, when he comes out, the whole crowd starts waving to him. He waves around, stands there, poses, and goes. All official. But in China, retired elders are not supposed to do that. They're supposed to be in the background. They don't come out. They don't come out posturing in public. Now, that itself sets, the political guys in China wagging. They're worried. What's happening? And incidentally, this happened at a time when Xi Jinping was not in Beijing, but he had gone to Xiong'an. What is Xiong'an? It is Xi's Folly, a city which is building from scratch, just about 100 kilometers away from Beijing. So he went there on an inspection, and this fellow comes out in the open in Beijing. And every China watcher is talking about it. And this lady, she's spoken about it thrice already. Today afternoon, when I was going for a walk, and I saw again she's speaking about it. I said, look, there must be something very serious. And it is, especially he being out, from the opposition. And if you, there's a video on this which is going around. I couldn't get my hands on it, but I saw it somewhere where the crowd is cheering him as he comes out. And he keeps waving around as if, and then he gets into a car officially and goes off. That won't gel well with Xi Jinping. Okay. Okay. It's not only that. The question is then, is Xi Jinping politically under threat? This is the question. Of course, he's under threat. But how much? You know, when, unlike, Trump, who's been going all round, or Mr. Modi, who went to, you know, Israel just before this war started 1 month back, and before that, he went wherever he had to go. Okay. And Mr. Trump has been going all around. I don't know from where all he speaks. Or for that matter, many other leaders. Xi Jinping has not left Beijing, or rather China, from April, May last year. The last time he left mainland China was in May 25. May 25, nearly a year back. Here in April. Uh, when he went to Hong Kong. Before that, I think he went to Kazakhstan or somewhere. He's not going out. Why does it? Why will an authoritarian leader not go out? He will not go out if he is not well, or he is under threat. One of the two, which is the truth. In either cases, his political, hold us down. He didn't leave Beijing for over 133 days. He went on 23rd March to Xiong'an. What for? His folly. He's building a city up from scratch. It's a ghost town. He's building a ghost town. No one wants to go there. He went to inspect it and came back. And when he went in a bullet train and came back in a bullet train so that he can't be interfered with. No one can take a pot shot at his aircraft. No one can. He didn't go in a car also. Bullet train is all, encapsulated. So he went in that and came back in that. Before that, last year in July 25, he went to Shanxi, and August he went to Lhasa. After that, he's not gone outside Beijing. Just think. From August 25, this gentleman has not left Beijing. So there are deep problems. And very interestingly, his last face-to-face interaction with troops, Z's, was in his visit to Northern Theatre Command late January 25, not this last year. When he traveled to headquarters in Shenyang and Liaoning province and interacted AO. Before that, every 2 months, every month, he used to go in a unit. Somewhere, some shipyard, some factory, some unit, and missile unit, some headquarter, and talk. Prepare for war, do this, do that. But from January 25, he's not gone and visited one unit. His all his interaction with this MPLA are through video link. And even now, the only face-to-face interaction he had was in these 2 sessions last month, which was running as the Iran war started. And there also he spoke to them, addressed them, and walked off. He never interacted with them. So you have a president, the Chinese president, who's just not interacting with China or the outside world or his army. And you have an ex-prime minister who's come in posturing outside Beijing when this chap is away. obviously the politics in China are in a very, 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 very poor state. So, if your politics, internal politics are bad, how will you think of going into Iran and doing anything? And that too, when you are not, you don't have the confidence of PLA. PLA doesn't have confidence in you. It's just not that I have confidence in my army. The army should also have confidence in me. And especially when all your military commanders are sacked. Not many have been replaced so far. No, in fact, there are no replacement for Zhang Yuji and that Liu Xinli. The military commission is still one man show with him and that Sheng Zemin. So you see that this problem is deep, and this is my primary cause why China is misfiring in the Iran war. Just get that straight. Okay. Now let's get to the Iran war. How has the Iran war impacted China? That's the next question which we're going to answer. Okay, let's go into it. Look, when I'm talking of G20 countries, India, this is with Prime Minister Modi and all, India has had almost 0% increase in petrol prices. Okay. China has had, look at China here, nearly 11% increase. And there were reports initially that there were long queues, all that, but that has been sorted out. But the fact remains that China is heavily dependent on oil from Middle East. Not only Iran, others. What about Qatar? Qatar gives it gas and helium. Without helium, its entire digital industry is top. And that's going to make an impact. Have no doubt about it. So then I said, okay, what is the real impact on China on this war? And why is China inhibited from getting into it? Okay. First and foremost, all the routes of subsidy, whether it's from Russia, whether it's from China, whether it's from Iran, have all collapsed. Just collapsed. Okay. They have input prices are costlier and they're not coming. Venezuela is not giving. China had teapot refineries. What were teapot refineries? Small, like a teapot. You just pour, finish, and give it out type. And those teapot refineries were tuned to certain type of oil which was coming from, say, either Venezuela, Iran, or Russia. Now, all those refineries are in a mess. Today, Venezuela has started producing over 1 million barrels of oil in the short 3 months. And a lot of it is coming to India, incidentally. Okay. So he's got that input. Now, anytime rising fuel prices means input costs rise in manufacturing. Now, if input costs rise in manufacturing, exports cost more. So there's a squeeze and there's a demand shock. Very simply put, today morning I explained, each country is going through a fuel shock. Someone is, putting a cap on the fuel which can be sold. Someone is cutting out commercial sale of LNG, like in our country. Someone has gone for rationing. Someone has raised the cost of fuel. If the cost of fuel is raised for a household, any household's ability to buy outside is lesser. It's common sense. And almost all countries in the world, fuel costs have gone up. If fuel costs have gone up all over the world, then there's inflation going to hit. And people will not spend. It's a natural thing. Why will I spend on anything? I will hold. If I hold, who will get hit? It is that country which is exporting. Country which is consuming will consume whatever is available for what it wants and fine. It will not go in for, electronics, all that. Upar, India has stopped, they've said all CCTV and electronic items from China can't be installed. That also is there. They're all volumes. You're going to squeeze. There's a squeeze. There's a demand shock which China is experiencing. Please understand. And China is an exporter-oriented economy. Their consumption is poor. We've been speaking of it throughout last year. Now it's going to hit them. And this hit, everyone says will come. It's not. It. They can't escape. They can't escape. Okay. It's only that today it's internal. Tomorrow it will become external. External means that exports will start falling. If the exports start falling, boy, their economy is going into a tailspin. Their arms exports will be limited, and I'll explain about it in detail. Freight and insurance costs have gone up, which makes exports costly. It's not only freight and insurance costs, you're not getting shipping. Because there's a massive dislocation of tankers and shipping. Air conditioner sales to the Middle East, which accounted for 20% of China's exports in 2025, are projected to tumble by 12% this month. It's not going to go, it's not going to run away. And immediately after that, no one is going to normalize. For the next 3 months, this will continue. Which means about 10 to 12% overall if it falls in this year. Then you just think where China is. These are facts. These are not. And why will he then fight? He is struggling. Politically, he is in a problem. Iran is. Costs are being imposed. There are costs on this thing. Then let's look at the military part. It is now very clear that air defense, inefficacy, useless equipment are certified. Started with Op Sindoor, followed into Iran first time, then Venezuela, now back to Iran. All four wars, the HQ9 system has failed completely. Who will buy a HQ9? Their radars are vulnerable. All they're supposed to be stealth locating up radars. Anti-stealth radars have failed. They failed everywhere. Okay. We know in the initial phase, Iran lost so many of their launchers because anti-stealth failed. Whose anti-stealth failed? Chinese. Right. Then there have been systemic purges in their system. And that I will talk separately. In fact, even the J20 designer has been sacked. It's not only J20 designer, it is jet engines, missile systems. So many guys are being sacked. And that's a full thing. You have to understand that something very funny is going on. Okay. So now the Middle East used to absorb 25% of their arms. Okay, prior to the war. And they have pivoted away from Chinese platforms already. You think Iran will ever buy a Chinese platform? Anyone will buy a Chinese platform? So their arms industry is going to take a big dive. Already inquiries for Chinese equipment have fallen by 40%. Now China is running after people, yaar, mera kharid lo. Main sasta dunga. People are saying no. Why? Proven inefficacy. And who has been telling this? Iranian officers. They say, what the hell, yaar, you bloody let us down, our whole country is being hammered thanks to your weapons. Countries are re-evaluating their contracts. And they are going in for Russia. That's why I said the big winner I had said this in the beginning. The three big winners of Iran war will be USA, Russia, and India. And China will be one of the biggest losers. These are facts. I mean, don't think that China has got everything in it. You think that everything will come out happily ever after for them. Okay. And then, of course, the Iran war is the worst, what shall I say, thing which has happened for China and its arms. Arms export are huge for China. Why? It's not only money. It's one is money, then the propaganda, influence, diplomacy, global influence. Now everyone is laughing. Yeah, वो ये क्या है? Let's collapse. The fear that PLA is going to be the strongest military. After all, PLA might export some items which are, you know, not meant for. I mean, will export value engineered stuff. They'll say some items are not for export. What we are going to export will have different specs and all. But how much difference will it be? Little. And look at China themselves. Will a guy who's firing or using a HQ9 be saying, okay, I'll use this radar? With this radar, I'll go to war? Which commander, which political leader will take a country to war with defective weapons? Okay, these are facts which are happening. These are all repercussions of the Iran war. Now, normally exports count for 20% of China's GDP. 20%. And all of it moves by sea. And a large chunk of exports go into the Gulf region, Gulf, Middle East, yeah, that entire Africa. They're going to be shipping delays, higher insurance costs, rerouting around checkpoints. All these will have a increased cost for exporters. And some of the items which they export and give to others are not as Chinese exports. They're rerouted with false names and also that people don't come to know. I mean, you might say, oh, Houthis and Chinese are friends. So Houthis will let Chinese exports go through Red Sea. I agree with it. But what if they're not supposed to be they're shown as originating somewhere else, which China is good at. They'll not be allowed to go. And then very simply, higher energy prices dampens global demand. It reduces foreign sales and it will very quickly translate into domestic economic pressure. And that you cannot uh, wish away. So the Iran war is going to dampen the Chinese economy. It's going to have a problem with its military. It's going to X, Y, Z. It's already happening. If that is the case, will China come out fighting? If it has to come out fighting, with whom? I've already said China can't support Iran beyond a point. If it's everyone knows China is supporting Iran, you think the Middle East countries will deal with China? You look at it. China and Pakistan have issued a statement, isn't it? China is supposed to be a superpower. But all the Gulf countries, Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, their foreign ministers went to Pakistan to have a talk. After that, the Pakistan foreign minister goes to China to have a talk. And from there, they give out 5 points. Now, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia are part of BRI. Why didn't they go to China? Have you thought of this? They have not gone to China. They're part of BRI and fully in fact, to the extent MBS once said, I'll deal with China and UN. But he's not gone to China. He is not appealed to China to tell US please lay off. You see this reputational value which is going? Turkey and China are bum chumps. What's happened? Egypt and China are thick. What happened? Qatar and UAE are talking today. Today. No one has spoken of China. Any of these conferences, any of these talks, China is out of the game. Understand why. And then if someone says, oh, China is still helping, if China is helping Iran, that's why they're being kept out. That's one way of looking at it. Any way you look at it, there is a problem in China, and China is already paying the cost or the price of the Iran war. And as we go along, this is going to increase. And that I have no doubt. Right. The third point, okay, there's some strange military decline in China. I call it strange military decline. It's not as much as a military decline. There's nothing very strange about it. I called it strange because it sounds nice, mysterious, yeah, but it is a systematic decline. And one has to understand this. And at first, I refused to believe it. I refused to believe it beyond a point. Okay. But then when I reread, about 3, 4 times, then things started falling in place. Okay. So, yeah, let's go one by one what's happening. First thing, we know China's military purge. I shown this slide earlier also. You look at the number of guys who've been sacked here. 62 generals were sacked in 2025. Already, 11 have been sacked in 2026. After this report was published, another 6 were sacked. So actually, this number is 17. It's already more than what happened in 23-24. Why have they been sacked? Is it only political? Is it because of inefficient procurement? Is it because of equipment failures in these wars? After all these wars have happened only in the past 1 year, isn't it? No, it's a question mark. Have we connected the dots? We have not connected the dots, but China has. Please understand that China has connected the dots in this. And here comes, I read this article. This article is, of course, from Hudson, and Hudson is a pro-right think tank. So he comes out with some theory, but some fundamentals which they've spoken of this are very right, and that's what I want to put across. And when you view it from that, I would say perspective, from a factual perspective, things are not very great in China. And if things militarily are not great in China, how will China get into a war? How do you get into a war when your chief of army staff or your chief of defense staff is sacked, and the guy who's replaced him doesn't have military experience, Zhang Zemin? How do you do that? It's okay to say, okay, China has invaded, so I will defend. The guy who's in theater command will say, I want all this done, give him, and he'll defend in a particular area. I'm just giving a scenario. But how do you carry out an operation in Iran or assist Iran or do anything for Iran, okay, or against USA or whatever, when you have no staff? The military staff is not there. They've just been sacked. People have not been put in place. They don't understand the geopolitical connections. They don't understand the complexities of this thing. Then how the hell can Iran do anything? And add to that, there are other things which are happening. And the crux is what I found in this report by Hudson. Okay. He says the CCP's determination to rival United States drives it to pursue even more ambitious military programs. Because as and when USA comes out with great weapons, China has to rival it. China has to say, I have better than yours. China has to prove that I have carrier killers, I have this, I have that, I have so much, right? Yet, the very system that mobilizes these efforts also limits their success. China is its own worst enemy. He says, without capacity for transparent evaluation, genuine innovation, and institutional resilience, progress remains uneven and fragile. I thought in that article, this was the most sensible thing which has been put out by the authors in Hudson. Look, developing a weapon system is just not manufacturing something and putting it on field. If that had been so, our DRDO would have been the best. Why do we in the army or navy or air force say, look, you can't induct second rate stuff? At many times I say, the way DRDO wants us to induct weapons into our system and the way China has inducted weapons into the system is the same. They're the same. They भाई कुछ तो खड़ा कर दो. Put something. And whether that fits into the larger picture or not, whether that is realistic to the conditions or not, no. The fact that China has a stealth bomber, whether it functions or not, how does it matter? People will believe. And Xi Jinping is there, propaganda, ye, wo. And he's been. The last sentence is important. Lack of transparent evolution, innovation, and institutional resilience, or lack of it. In this game, you should have the courage of conviction to say, I can't take it. No. And let me tell you my personal example. Once I was being forced to accept a particular equipment. And I was in front of Mr. Manohar Parikar and a few others who were interested in getting that equipment approved. And Mr. Manohar Parikar said, I want the DGRT's word on this. If the DGRT says it is good, I will order. Otherwise, no. So I was called, meeting fixed. I didn't know Mr. Parikar had said all this. So I was told, I was given a preamble. The preamble made me understand that I should say yes. So Mr. Parikar looked at me without batting an eyelid, without thinking. I said, sir, I cannot induct this. As a DGRT, I cannot, because I will be letting everyone down. I didn't say that, but I knew I'll be letting my chief of army staff down. I'll let my Jawans down. That's the worst thing. Because tomorrow when they go into battle, they'll not have a good equipment. I said, I'll not. I told him. Walked out. Everyone walked out. He said, yeah, end of story. Please go. We'll talk later. Then I hung on that day in that room. I felt bad having said no to my defense minister in front of everyone. I said, sir, I'm sorry I said this. But he said, Shankar, I understand. What decisions we take matters. It's of national importance. I'm glad you have not said the wrong thing. Carry on. So when I came out, I'm giving you a real life story. When I came out, all those guys in the MOD were waiting. Why? How can you say this? No, yeah, wo, all that. I said, yeah, why you bothered? I've had a word with them. End of story. Yeah, get lost. Chamche. Okay. Political chamches. So they said, no, no, you lose everything. Yeah, what lose? Very that year I retired honorably later in the year, and I was awarded PVSM also. So what is it? India has a absolutely, institutional resilience. Nothing happens to you if you speak the truth. Not so in China. And there are proof. We'll come to that. We'll just come to that. Just think, this is facts now. I'm now talking facts. Since the Venezuela operation, okay, key figures associated with major defense programs: aircraft carrier construction, advanced fighter design, radar systems, air defense missiles, and strategic weapons have been removed from public list life or stripped of status. Thank you. Why? This has happened conjoined with the PLA chap sacking. See, viewed in isolation, you might say they have been infiltrated, something has happened. Yeah, oh. But as this is something very, very strange which didn't come out last month. Last month we were only discussing Zhang Yugja, Li Junli, ye nahi hai, wo Li nahi hai, ye Li aa gaya, nahi hai. And we were saying, oh, so many generals sacked, ye wo. But as those chaps were getting sacked, all the scientists, designers, and public sector undertaking chaps were also being sacked. It's now coming out in black and white. And they've named. Hu Yongming, top scientist for China's naval aviation and carrier development. Why? We were telling from last year, General Rajiv Narayanan and I, that one of their ships, one of their carriers had a crack on the deck. Now that bloody carrier development chief is sacked. Just see, just connect what I've been speaking and to what is happening now. Okay, Yang Wei, the leading designer of advanced fighter, including J-10 and J-20, gone. We'll talk of him a little later. Wu Manping, the PLA's leading radar and counter stealth specialist, HQ-9. Thank you. Ab jao. Wei Yi Win, senior figure in air defense missile research. He's also out. Zhao Zianzheng, a key figure in advanced nuclear weapons design. Abhi, we have not used, no, the nuclear weapons. We don't know whether they function or not. All these indicate a systemic failure in China. If there's a systemic failure in China, how can you enter a war? Especially when the other superpower is hitting, flying from Missouri B9s and doing air-to-air refueling twice en route and coming putting bombs on one little Tulu in Iran. Can you do that? All these represent critical nodes in China's defense innovation network. All these chaps are being sacked. And these sudden disappearance, they don't suggest isolated incidents anymore, but a broader dismantling of technical leadership behind China's military modernization. This report talks of only isolated, broader dismantling of technical leadership. But I'm looking at it beyond, connected with what happened with the sacking of all those generals. The rot is deeper. China's capability is fully under question. Fully under question. It might have a GDP, AP, OP. I have never agreed to it, but now the proof is coming out. They're not prepared to go. They're not prepared to take a military stand anywhere. They bloody put Pakistan to fight against us. Then they got hit. उनको वो थोड़ा प्रोपेगेंडा वगैरह कर दिया वो बेचारा घूम रहा है ऊपर नीचे. Today there's a video out where that Bangi is scolding that idiot Ishaq Dar. वो तो जप्पी चुप्पी मार रहा है. He's saying all is well type. Okay, more. AVIC, Aviation Corporation of China. J-20 fighters बनाते हैं. Tan Rui Sang, chairman of AVIC. The massive state conglomerate like HAL, it's like equivalent of HAL and 2 times more, responsible for producing most of China's combat aircraft, was sentenced to death on charges of corruption and misconduct. Unexplained deaths of leading scientists in key research areas. Figures associated with hypersonic weapons and advanced aerodynamics, all dying. Have died in recently. This is very recent. This is all within this year. Fang Daiying, Yang Hong, they're both hypersonic weapon researchers and they're dead. There's no explanation for their death. Why? Because there's a highly opaque and high pressure environment to deliver. He can't deliver. He can't deliver because he's been given a timeline. Why Xi Jinping wants one, hypersonic missile by day after tomorrow. So he'll give a hypersonic missile, which is not a hypersonic missile. And that is found out. What will he do? He'll only hang himself. What else can he do? There's a corruption, ye, wo, sab kuch hai. This is China. This is China Communist Party. Chinese Communist Party is a society which is eating its own state. These are now widely publicized in huge number of websites. Alarming rise of young scientists' death in China raises global concerns. Oh, these three. This is from South China Morning Post. South China Morning Post, incidentally, has reported everyone. Top nuclear weapons, radar, and missile experts vanished from the Chinese Academy of Engineering site. Zhao Xiangyang, he was a member of Chinese Academy of Engineering, the highest body, the nation's highest academic body. His whole story has been erased. Others, radar, view manquing, I spoke of it little earlier, and VEN, they have also been removed. No, these are not coming through vague websites. They're coming through state media. South China Morning Post is state media. This came last week. Yan Hong, 56. At 56, she's dead. Why? This lady must be under tremendous pressure to deliver, which she can't deliver, and she dies. Poor lady. Okay. Yeah, G20. Remember last year? Oh, Pakistan will get G35, G20, J20, yeah, whoa, all that. Opsindor. Oh, J2010, the best fighter aircraft in the world. Bloody taken out all Sukhais, Pukais, yeah, whoa, and bloody Rafales. Sab thuk diya. 1 year later, what's the thing? Yang V. He's removed. I believe this is unconfirmed. I really don't know. That during the testing phase, something happened. Yeah, whoa, more than 100 guys have died in the evolution of this aircraft. So when Xi Jinping was finally told that this aircraft is not functioning well, and more than 100 guys have died, they said, "Yeah, first isko nikalo." And I don't think he's alive. I mean, from what I come to know, he's been put on the wall. Unofficial. This is not confirmed. And this comes out from Caxin. Caxin is their reputed economic website. Chief designer of J20 stealth fighter disappears. See the word disappears, not removed. He's disappeared. He's been taken out. Drone expert, Zhang Daibing, gone. Young chap. And is this the end of the story? I don't think so. I think there's more to come. Okay. So before I get to the next thing, you just think with this kind of a product, with this kind of aircraft, with this kind of drones, with every every death is connected with a capability. Why is this chap dying? Because that capability is not good enough. If that capability is not good enough, this is it. This is it. If that capability is not good enough, how can China go and participate in Iran war? Every aspect of Iran war where Iran is failing, every aspect of Venezuela campaign where Chinese equipment failed, every aspect of Op Sindoor where again Chinese equipment failed. When I say Iran war, the first one in May, June, and now, where Chinese equipment have failed, all those chaps have been washed off, just scrubbed clean, along with PLA. Now you are having an army which has suspect equipment, highly suspect equipment, underperforming equipment, and no generals. If that is the case, will China participate in this whole story? Apart from the economic aspects which I put, the repercussions of the Iran war, with what face will they do? So we have to understand why China is not participating. Their military prowess is just not there to participate 6,000 kilometers or 8,000 kilometers away. They don't have that capability. And Iran doesn't want. Iran, you might tell Iran, I'll give you everything. Will Iran take it? I take it if I were in Iran's place? No. Okay. Now let's talk of something else which is happening. EV bubble. The entire electronic vehicle sector has got into a bubble. Everyone saw it coming, but it is there. Why is this important? You see, last year, I'm going back last year now, Xi Jinping came out and said, oh, new quality production, high technology. What are the things which are there? Solar, EVs, batteries. These are the high technology space. Yeah, whoa. Now, there's a phenomenon in China. And I need to explain that before I touch on the EV bubble. Now, that's the interesting thing. There's always a involution bubble phenomenon in China. Okay, always. And this is not new. This has happened from the beginning. If you go back in their history, steel, aluminum, and copper in 2003 were in this case, where China was producing more, there were no demand for it internally. Externally, the demand collapsed, and the whole thing, involution took place, and that bubble burst. When the Asian tigers, those economies got into a problem, aluminum, steel, cement, and copper collapsed in China. But luckily for them at that point of time, all these steel, aluminum, cement, and copper industries were all state industries. So they could wrap it up in their losses. Okay. But it was the first case of involution which came to notice globally. The second case of involution, I wouldn't say involution, of a bubble, was stocks. Stocks became overvalued in 2015. Overnight crashed. They went into a bubble. Bubbles in China are not new. Solar panels also went into a bubble in 21-22 and they crashed. Property, we all know 20 to 22 went into a bubble and crashed. Steel is ongoing. The second bubble of steel is at this point of time ongoing. It can crash any day because steel is connected with property. And the EV bubble now. What happens in China is when the government publishes a policy, okay, I want new productive forces, Xi Jinping said, and I want to export EVs and solar, everyone gets onto the bandwagon. Why? Subsidies. They are prepared to sell at lesser than cost price because they'll make up in subsidies. So this involution bubble phenomenon is endemic to China. And now the EV bubble will break any day now. And you might say, oh yaar, ye kya baat kar raha hai? No. Volkswagen has reclaimed the top spot in cars sold in China. This is the report of Reuters. BYD, which is supposed to be their top seller, has dropped to fourth. Why? China is not able to subsidize anymore. China has reduced subsidies. The moment the subsidies have fallen, the costs of these cars have gone up. No one is buying them. Why has China reduced subsidies? Because economically, subsidies means what? You buy a bond. You sell bonds. You sell bonds. The money you get from bonds is given as subsidy. Who buys the bonds? People. So the people are subsidizing all these fellows. So that has a limit. China has reached a stage where it cannot subsidize much more. And you'll see this going as we go along. So he cannot subsidize. So he's withdrawn the subsidy. The moment he's withdrawn the subsidy, BYD sales fell. Okay. New York Times also started analyzing this just last week. Stock slide and slow sales. What's happening in China's EV market? Now, this is natural without Iran war. Now, compound this with the Iran war. This bubble will deflate very fast or burst. Okay? This is the BYD stock prices. It's already falling. Now, just listen to this chap, Ken. Okay, 4 minutes. Worth listening. He'll explain why this bubble is taking place. Yeah. If you can't
Hey
hear, let me
friends,
know.
everyone has heard about China's real estate collapse, but almost no one is paying attention to the next bubble. And this one is far more dangerous. Because when real estate collapsed, people were still left with empty buildings. When this bubble collapses, people might be left with cars they can't even drive. I'm talking about China's so called future industry, new energy vehicles. Over the past decade, China has been running the same playbook again and again. First, it was real estate, wild growth, easy money, massive leverage, then collapse, unfinished buildings everywhere, local governments drowning in debt, households suffocating. And just when that bubble started to crack, China needed a new growth engine. So the central planners picked electric vehicles and they went all in. For 15 years, the government poured massive subsidies into the industry. Billions turned into trillions. Production exploded. China became the world's largest EV market. On the surface, it looked like a miracle of central planning. But underneath, the same old problem was quickly building: overcapacity. As domestic supply far exceeds domestic demand in China, a huge portion of that capacity is sitting idle. Unsold cars are piling up, inventory is swelling, and companies are getting desperate to move the inventory. So, what do? They start cutting prices aggressively, relentlessly. BYD, China's EV champion, launched discounts as high as 34%. That kind of price war is a bloodbath for profit margins. And when BYD cuts the price, everyone follows. And now the entire industry is trapped in a race to the bottom. Hey, friends, everyone.
So everyone in the industry is faced, in a race to the bottom, and this will collapse. Okay, and I found this very interesting video after that. Look at this.
This is a field of over 10,000 Neta V Chinese EV cars that are rotting away.
600多台啊，21年的，都是50公里以内啊，上牌新车。
And this man has just exclaimed that these BYD cars, all 2021 models, have less than 31 miles on them. Just like that field of 10,000 cars, they all have license plates on them, they're all fully registered, and they've been put away to rot. Yes, all of these cars have been left to rot. Why on earth is China throwing away entire fields of electric cars? By now, we've all heard that China's EV sales are outpacing the rest of the world. You'll see the headlines that say, China is now the leader in EV sales, and Tesla's got to watch out, and all this other nonsense. Well, guess what? It's true, the numbers are true. But what you're not taking into consideration is that China is the land of shortcuts and facades. And all of these cars that you're seeing in this field, well, they're counted in those numbers. You see the Neta Vs and the BYDs and the bigger brands that you see huge amounts of them just parked out to rot. Well, you see, that's because they need the numbers. In order to get subsidies from the government, in order to put out the sales figures that they've sold more than Tesla and that they're leading in EV production. And
So that's the thing. So they're stuck. They're stuck. And this is what they're doing. All false. Okay. Now I come to the fifth part of my whole story for today. Okay. There's disturbances. There's a series of disturbances which are happening in China. And I have no thread to connect them. They're all disparate, from protest here, some vehicle doing something there. Yeah, I'll put you through that and then we'll talk. We'll talk of these disturbances because they're funny. Why would they happen? They don't happen in India. Okay. They don't happen in India. In India, if it happened, a lot of people will be in trouble. Look at this. First, there are two startups. There's a startup, two guys in a startup, a AI-based startup. So it flourishes in China. Meta buys it. And once Meta buys it, these chaps move the headquarters of their startup to Singapore. Okay. And start operating from there as per Meta rules because they are a subsidiary of Meta, Facebook. Uh, there's a problem with China has because they feel that there's a violation of FDI, all that. What China, these chaps shifted permanently to Singapore. So China calls these chaps back to Beijing. They say, you come, we'll discuss. They must have done something. So these chaps went back to Beijing like fools, and that's it. China said, no, you can't go out. So their company is in Singapore, those chaps are in Beijing, end of story. Now, if this is the way, this story tells you a lot of things. There, same, what happened to those designers, all. Okay. So this is one story. Whom do you connect it to? Okay. So whom do you connect it to? This restrictive environment. Then there's a report. This lady's she puts out a tweet in Lee's Real Talk that China's digital fortress has been breached, and all sensitive data is leaking out. We don't know it's right or wrong, but she's put it out, and she's put it out properly, and she's done a video about it. Okay, this number two. Number three, this you would have seen. If you have not seen, you'll see it. Okay, this is a armored fighting vehicle, a tank or a AFV. I mean, it's AFV. Just see this, and then we'll talk. These chaps are in a mount watching this whole thing. So this, just think. Now those guys are standing on a mound, watching this demonstration, and this guy fires a smoke grenade, and it lands on those guys who are watching this. This came out last week. It was viral. So I said, look, this must be AI generated AO and all that. Till lot of the Chinese only YouTubers and other websites put this out. Then I said, yeah, this must be there. So I'm just putting it out. I don't know the context. I don't know this, but this coming out, why is it coming out? How is it come out? This has been taken from the AFV itself, and they put it out. It's not someone else doing it. It has come from the top of the tank. That tank guy has deliberately fired a smoke grenade on that mount. He's pictured it, and now it is out in the open. What do you make of it? This is the third instance. Okay? The fourth instance. Yesterday, 4 people were killed and 9 others injured in a blast that ripped through a highway tunnel under construction in China's southwestern Chongqing. Yesterday. This happened day before yesterday, actually. Ekai reports it. Ekai is an economic channel. Yeah. Why would he report this? I don't know. I've never seen it. I keep following Ekai regularly. He's reported it. Completely unexplainable. Okay, this is the fourth incident. All this happens now. It's not happening over the past 10 years. This is all of the past 10 days. All these events of the past 10 days. Then protests against China. Somewhere against for religion, somewhere for some bloody graveyard issue, somewhere for taxes, somewhere for some barriers being put up or not put up. Small, chute-put things which happen in housing colonies and all that. No, those are being responded with extra force. All over. Okay. What are these? For unpaid wages, property buyers scammed, rural land grabs, things like that. Okay. And this video is very funny. Acha, this video is very interesting. I'll put that video on. Okay. Yeah. I put the sound out, but see the action in this. This old lady in that pink thing, she's an old lady with white silver hair. She's the one who started this protest, stone throwing and all. These chaps got after her. And that act of her throwing stones and all has become a poster for anti-China protests. And they're being dispersed. How many protesters are there? Handful. How many guys are there who are armed police? They're 10 times more. That's the problem with China today. Okay. And somewhere or the other, the protests are happening. This is the fifth point which I wanted to bring. Okay. People are reporting there have been over 100 deaths and 1,000 injuries. I don't know whether that's right or wrong. But protests have been there. About 8 to 10 protests, all like a rash for various reasons are coming everywhere. Okay. Right. This is the one which I saw. This lady, it has been shown as if she's some kind of a heroine. Right. And these, if you see all this, now you see something else which has happened. For the third consecutive year, Japan's investment into China has reduced. So, for good news for India, all that I have to cover it as part of India. But I thought, yeah, look, this is something happening. You look at the long-term thing, short-term thing, look at everything. So you see that things are not going, not as per this thing, just going ori. It lose control. Is China losing control of itself? That's a bigger question. So I've put 7, 8 points. Some protest somewhere, some guy dying somewhere, all that. Now, if you put the sum total of all this, you link it up. Can China go and interfere in the Iran war? I don't think so. Yet there are people here who, of course, I see a lot of Chinese trolls coming and talking. After all, by now I know them. That's okay. That's part of the deal. But like for this chap has said, China has surpassed US capacity. Obviously, he's from China. In fact, the number of every time I speak on China, the number of Chinese now who are coming are more, which confirms to me that there's a real problem in China. Is that an opportunity for us? Of course, it's an opportunity for us, and we'll talk of it tomorrow, day after, separately. Okay, right. Okay, let's take it. Yeah, even in tech is in a mess in China. What's happening to them? That's the point, Vishal. I don't know what's happening to them. They don't seem to know what's happening to them. It's not something which is right there. It's not so. Lata says the Chinese have hit rock bottom in efficacy of missiles defense items. Completely right. Teapot is a revenue loss to exchequer and to black money. Whatever you're talking, talk. Okay. Yeah. So I regularly watch your videos. Excuse me, I couldn't watch it live. I make sure I watch all your videos. I learn a lot. Thank you. Right? So the point is, thanks a lot. Please come. All of you who are watching this, please put the like button, and also share this, video with your friends. I'm going to split it up into small parts because each is a splittable part, and I'll put it out so that you can circulate it to your friends. And also join Gunner Shot as members. Also subscribe to Gunner Shot. That's the thing. Okay, let me see. Yeah. Oh, thank your outstanding coverage on Iran conflict has spoiled me badly. Your dedication. Oh, no, don't worry. You'll be a better person. Just learn from what I have tried. What I have learned is from the Indian Army and my training in the Indian Army, and I put it to you. That's about all. Okay. Look at this fellow. He says, "Don't you know it's not good to laugh at others when your own house is on fire?" Yeah, I like it. See, it's pinching them. It's pinching them. Okay. Yeah, is it possible that young members of Chinese army think of war game as a game of PUBG and battleground game can be played non-contact in the drawing room? Possible. Look, they don't look. My firm view, right from 2020, and I told Sandeep Punithan then. He asked me, "Sir, what's going to happen? Will China attack us?" I said, "Don't worry, they'll not attack you." He said, "Why?" I said, "Don't worry, they'll not attack you." He again asked me why. And I told him, "Have you looked at the Chinese deployments? They're not come here to fight with you. They only come here to avoid war. And they're belligerent about it." And I called it belligerent war avoidance. Nowadays, they're not even belligerent. They're just avoiding war. Please see, that's the truth. They're avoiding war completely. Okay. Uh, so I thought I'll share all this with you. I don't see many questions. Okay. Any 2 years ago, don't fuel with the US worth watching foreshadow. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know. I can't make out what you have said. Mm, yeah, China के माल चले तो चांद तक नहीं तो शाम तक. That's how it is, and end of story. Yeah, yeah, all faking by China, sir, and they were supported by Z to cut down competition and give time to catch up. Problem was they did not catch up and took it all. That there's no doubt about it. Limit to how much you can fake, and finally the faking has caught up with them, and that's why they're not able to put a step forward in Iran war. Look at it. We have sent our ships there to escort them back, or tankers back, or naval ships have gone to escort. Has one Chinese ship come there? We've not heard of it. Okay, that's the thing. Okay. Yeah, this is also actually a very erudite comment. Chinese issue started after they didn't know how to support the Alibaba guy. They were afraid of losing their communist. Very important. Alibaba and Jack Ma threatened Communist Party of China, and that's why they backed off completely. Okay. Good evening, Kiran. Nice, you're back. And anyone else? Yeah. Looks like China is going the same path where Japan in 80s, the bubble burst in the 90s, and economic that's already started. This Iran war will get them faster into stagnation. Just watch. I've been saying, come to 2030, you'll see a different story. Okay. Yeah. BY Indian Army has published 23 component of technology challenges. Can you talk about it to increase public involvement? I'll do that one of these days. I'll do that. Let this Iran thing get over. I'll do that. Yeah, what about 1 trillion trade surplus? 1 trillion trade surplus doesn't mean profits. Please understand. They've sold it as a loss. Their actual profits are much less. Everything comes by, you see, they're keeping their engine alive. Now, what's happening in the Iran war, the blowback will be that the engine will close, the trade surplus will collapse. If the trade surplus, they'll still end up with the trade surplus. If the trade surplus decreases, they're going to have blowback internally. We'll see. You'll see it. We'll talk about it. Don't worry. Okay? We'll talk of it. Okay. Amitesh, you are a fool. I'm calling you out of as a fool. BID outsells Tesla in Europe for second straight month. Yeah, all that. Yeah, you should read what Chinese stock. BYD sales in Europe is not a barometer. You look at China. I've shown you China where they are. You are hell bent on. You must go and live in China and become a Chinaman. Okay, and become the designer of their next J20 aircraft. You'll be happy there. I think, and then Xi Jinping will do what he wants to do with you. I think you and he are made for each other. See, I don't mind you supporting China, but comes a time in life when you have to see reason. And you're not seeing reason, but you want to come here and learn about it. Okay, and then okay, any other question? Let me see if there's any other question. Okay, fine. I don't think there are many more questions today. Yeah, there's one start question. Thanks a lot, Jigesh. Any recommendation on steps we can take to invest more in R&D? I'll do that. I'll do that separately. There are a lot of steps which you can do. We can, when we must do. I'll do that compendium and this point, what you're saying, I'll do it together one of these days. I need a break, actually. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining in today. And all of you, and watching this, do, like I said, do subscribe to Ganashot and share this video with your friends also subscribe as members, join in as members. And I'll not be on in the morning because morning I have a meeting in IIT which I have to go early, but I'll come back in the afternoon and probably do a 3 or 4 o'clock show in the afternoon. And evening, of course, we'll have one with this guy up now, Jaipur Dialogues. Okay, at 7 o'clock. If that doesn't happen, I'll do it in the evening. I'll do one. Okay, one I will do as a review, right? And there's certain interesting things which are coming up, which I'll put across on the Iran war. And let me tell you as a final thing before we go, don't think the Iran war is over. It's still on. The war is on. It's just that Iran is regrouping after the shock they got day before yesterday. Something will happen. So we'll wait till then. Right? Have a great time. Enjoy yourself till tomorrow. And Jai Hind to all of you.